This happened a few weeks ago. I was living in a different town. I thought it was time to come back to Maplewood. My mother was sick, and I felt a sense of duty. I drove through the winding mountain roads expecting to feel at home again. But everything felt different. The town was so quiet. The old railway tracks rusted away. The gardens were overgrown. It felt like the whole place was holding its breath. I stayed in my old house, a two-story where I grew up. At night I heard laughter outside my bedroom window. It was faint like a soft trickle of water. I thought it was kids playing at the park. But when I looked outside, there was nothing. The park was dark and empty. The laughter came again over the next few days. It bothered me, but I tried to ignore it. Then it changed. The laughter turned into whispers, long and drawn out, calling my name. Jake. I brushed it off as stress. But then, I found some old newspaper clippings in the living room. They were yellowed and dusty. They talked about strange disappearances from years ago, always connected to the woods behind my house. I felt uneasy reading those articles. Each story brought back old fears I thought I had buried. My daily life became overshadowed by dread. My neighbors smiled at me, but their eyes looked different. They seemed to carry secrets I couldn't grasp. One evening I stepped outside. I wanted to shake off the creeping feeling. I walked toward the park. I glanced around, feeling like someone was watching me. That laughter erupted again, but this time it felt closer. I thought I saw shadows moving between the trees. My heart raced. Then I turned to leave, but a voice whispered my name. Jake. It felt sharp against the quiet night. I froze, looking around. No one was there. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was just tired. But then I heard a giggle. It sent a chill down my spine. I wished I had never come back. Those shadows shifted, and the stories of my childhood rushed back, each one tied to the woods behind my house. The whispers returned, curling through the trees. Come play with us, Jake. I shivered. I had to get home. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched as I turned to run. The cold laughter followed me. I felt the weight of the night closing in. My mother needed me, but I feared what lurked in those woods. I ran faster, not daring to look back. The shadows danced and twisted, but I didn't care. I just needed to get home. I made it to the porch, breathless and shaking. The laughter faded behind me, but I knew it would be back. I locked the door and pressed my back against it. Questions raced through my mind, but for now I was safe. I didn't know if I could face whatever was calling my name in the dark. The next morning I woke up to a quiet house and the faint smell of breakfast. My mother was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she flipped pancakes. It felt normal, comforting. But the laughter from the night before lingered in my mind like a shadow. "Good morning, Jake," she said, her voice warm but tired. I forced a smile and joined her at the table. The clattering of kitchen utensils filled the silence, but I couldn't shake the weight in my chest. As I ate, I decided I had to talk to someone about what I'd been experiencing. Maybe I could find answers. I pushed my plate away and cleared my throat. "Mom, do you remember any stories about the woods behind our house?" She stopped and looked at me, a strange expression on her face. "Why do you ask?" I shrugged, uneasy. "I found some old newspaper clippings and I just—" "Don't," she interrupted, her tone sharp. "There's nothing in those stories you need to know about." Her reaction made me uneasy. It was like a door slammed shut. I couldn't pry further, so I finished my breakfast in silence. I needed to find out more, just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. After we cleaned up, I decided to explore the woods again. I'd go during the day this time. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting striped shadows on the ground. As I walked deeper, I tried to ignore the rustling sounds around me. My heart raced, but I pressed on. Then I saw something out of the corner of my eye. I turned, but there was nothing, just the trees. I felt breathless both from fear and the effort of walking. However, I caught sight of a narrow path I hadn't noticed before. Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped onto the path, the underbrush crackling beneath my feet. It led me to a clearing where the sunlight broke through. In the center, something caught my eye. A small, weathered doll lying on the ground. It looked like it had been there for years, dirt smeared across its face. I approached slowly, my skin crawling. The doll was cracked and missing a button eye, but it was hard to look away. This felt wrong. I knelt down to pick it up, but just as I reached for it, a chill swept through the clearing, and I heard a soft giggle. "Come play with us, Jake." The laughter returned, echoing off the trees, closer this time, almost as if it were surrounding me. My skin prickled. I snatched the doll from the ground, not caring how dirty it was, and scrambled back to the path. The whispered laughter filled the air, making me feel dizzy. I ran, dodging branches and roots as I stumbled back towards my house. The echoes of playful voices swirled in my head. It felt like they were urging me to join them, but I couldn't. I was terrified. When I burst through the front door, the laughter faded into the distance. I slammed the door behind me, my heart pounding as realizing I had the doll clutched tightly in my hand. Then I heard it again, louder this time, scraping at my door. Someone or something was trying to get in. I bolted to the living room, my heart hammering in my chest. The sound at the door continued, a rhythmic scratching that felt like nails on a chalkboard. I glanced at the doll in my hands, its single button eye staring back at me, and my stomach twisted. "Mom," I shouted, urgency spilling into my voice. I needed her to hear me, to come help. But all I heard was the distant hum of the fridge and the faint ticking of the clock above it. Panic surged through me. What if she didn't come? What if it was too late? I crept back toward the door, my hand hovering over the doorknob. The scratching paused for a moment, and I could hear my own breathing, shaky and rapid. Maybe it's just an animal, I told myself, trying to convince my racing mind. But the scraping resumed, sharper and more frantic. "No, it's not an animal," I whispered under my breath. I backed away, trying to gather my thoughts. I had to decide what to do. Suddenly a loud thud echoed against the door, sending a jolt of fear through me. I stumbled back and fell against the wall. "What the hell is going on?" I muttered, glancing at the window. The thick trees outside seemed to loom closer now, like they were watching me. That's when I remembered the old newspaper clippings I had found. "Something happened in those woods," I murmured, piecing together the bits of memory. There had been stories of disappearances, of voices luring children deep into the forest, never to return. And now, with the laughter still ringing in my ears, I felt like I was becoming part of that story. The thudding at the door continued, each sound getting more desperate. I had to know what was out there. Slowly, I moved back toward the door and steadied myself. I gripped the doorknob and took a deep breath. "On 3, I whispered. 1, 2, 3. I flung the door open and squinted against the sunlight. My heart dropped at what I saw. The only thing waiting for me was the empty porch, but I could feel the air change, like something was nearby. Briefly I glanced at the woods, my instincts screaming at me to run. But then I noticed something on the ground, a small pile of dirt and twigs, forming an outline of something. "What is that?" I thought. Stepping outside, I crouched down. My breath caught as I realized it resembled a child's handprint, faint but visible, just beside the door. It was so small, so innocent, and the hair on the back of my neck prickled. I was not alone. Then, from behind me, I heard a voice, sweet and innocent. "Come out and play, Jake." I whirled around, eyes wide. No one was there, just the woods, whispering their secrets. That's when I knew I had to find answers, not just for myself, but for whatever was lurking in the forest. I turned back to the woods, feeling a strange pull tugging at me. I wasn't going to run away. I was going back. The mystery was just beginning. The air felt thick as I stepped into the woods, the sun disappearing behind the canopy above. Each step was hesitant, my heart pounding like a warning drum. I glanced back at the house, the safe confines of home looking so far away now. But I couldn't turn back, not when something out here was calling me. The scratching sound at the door faded into memory, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and distant bird calls. The woods were alive, but there was a stillness lurking beneath. I remembered the handprint and the voice, and chills ran down my spine. What or who could be out here? As I walked deeper in, I kept my eyes peeled. The further I went, the more the sunlight struggled to break through. Shadows danced and twisted around me. Suddenly I stumbled onto a narrow path overgrown with weeds. Curiosity pulled me down it like a thread, tugging at an unraveling sweater. "What am I doing?" I muttered to myself, but something drew me in, something almost magnetic. After a few minutes, the path opened up to a small clearing. In the center stood an old crooked tree. A shiver raced through me as I spotted something tied to its trunk, a tattered ribbon fraying at the edges. I stepped closer, careful not to disturb the ground beneath me. Footprints. Small footprints trailed away from the tree, leading toward a thicket where the trees seemed to close in tightly. They looked as fresh as if a child had just run through here, but there was no sound, no laughter, just silence. My gut twisted. What had happened to this child? I turned back to examine the tree. Nausea bubbled up within me as I wrapped my fingers around the ribbon. I shouldn't have touched it. I felt a strange heat radiate from it, pulsing like a heartbeat. A ghostly whisper brushed against my ear. "Stay." I yanked my hand back, and the whisper turned into a cacophony of frantic voices. "Help! Find us! We're hiding!" The words clawed at my mind. I stumbled back, colliding with something hard that made a dull thud. Whipping around, I froze. There stood a figure, barely visible, half hidden in darkness. My pulse raced, and fear twisted my stomach into knots. "Who's there?" I croaked, but my voice barely escaped my lips as it trembled. The figure emerged slowly, revealing a girl with pale skin and tangled hair. Her eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of fear and desperation. "You have to leave," she said, her voice shaky. "It's not safe. They watch." "Who watches?" I asked, my heart sprinting. The girl stepped closer, the space between us shrinking, her fear palpable. But just as her lips were about to form an answer, I heard laughter again. That cursed laughter bounced through the woods, mingling with the cries for help. Everything in me screamed to run, but I was rooted in place. Then the shadows around us stirred, taking form. I was in the middle of something I didn't understand, and I was running out of time. I stood frozen, my breath catching in my throat. The girl's eyes darted around us, searching the trees for an unseen threat. The shadows twisted like smoke, and I could feel my heart racing, each beat matching the palpable tension in the air. "We need to go," she urged, her voice trembling. "Now." Before I could respond, the laughter echoed again. Louder this time, wrapping around us like a sinister blanket. The girl reached out, grabbing my wrist, and for a split second I felt the warmth of her grip. But it was fleeting. As soon as I blinked, the warmth was gone, snatched away by the cold that enveloped the clearing. "Where do we go?" I stammered, panic clawing at me. "Just follow me," she yelled, pulling me toward the thicket where the footprints led. I stumbled as I rushed after her, the world around us a blur of darkening trees. Ahead, I could see the path narrowing, vines creeping like fingers trying to pull us back. "I don't understand. What are you scared of?" I shouted into the humidity, my throat dry as dust. "The Watchers, they see everything," she shouted back, her voice breaking. I wished I could see the Watchers, But all I could feel was the heaviness of the trees closing in, the oppressive silence thudding against my skull. Just then, from the corner of my eye, something flickered. A pair of glowing eyes peered at us from within the shadows, filling me with dread. "Run!" I shouted, my voice piercing the stillness. The girl didn't need telling twice. We sprinted through the thicket as branches snagged at our clothes, each sharp jab fueling my adrenaline. But where were we running to? Suddenly, the laughter morphed into cries, the voices growing fainter, distant. The girl's grip tightened on my wrist as we broke through the thicket into another clearing. It stopped us both cold. In the center of this new space stood a circle of stones, ancient and crumbling. I recalled stories of rituals and offerings from the town's folklore, tales of children who vanished into the depths of the forest. "What is this place?" I whispered, feeling raw fear dance through my veins. "It's where they gather." The girl breathed, looking around as if expecting something to leap out from the stones. "We can't stay here." There was something undeniably wrong about the stones. They pulsed with an energy unlike anything I'd ever felt. Then the laughter returned, rushing to meet us, and I could see dark shapes moving just beyond the trees' edges, creeping closer. "Over there!" The girl pointed to a gap in the stones, twinkling like a hidden doorway. "Go. I'll hold them back." "Wait. No!" I protested, but she was already pushing me toward the gap. The sense of urgency gripped me tighter than ever. The shadows seemed to lurch forward, hungry for whatever was left unclaimed. I glanced back at her. What should I do? But before I could hear her reply, she was swept away. I saw her surrounded by the shapes, her scream echoing as the forest swallowed her whole. My heart dropped. I had to make a choice. I was faced with the opening. I could either turn back and face whatever lurked in the dark, or I could slip through the breach in the stones, a chance at escape, or perhaps something worse waiting on the other side. I could only hope it was a way to find her again. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. Then I stepped through the opening, heart pounding wildly. What awaited me in the unknown? As soon as I passed through the opening, a sharp gust of wind hit me, forcing me to stumble forward. It felt like stepping into a different world, the air thick and charged with an energy I couldn't place. I looked around, trying to gather myself. The clearing behind me seemed to fade, swallowed by the shadows. I quickly scanned the new space. Everything was muted, the colors dull, almost as if the brightness had been drained from the world. The trees surrounding me loomed even taller than before, their branches twisted and gnarled. The birds were silent, an eerie absence that made the hair on my arm stand up. I took a cautious step forward. The ground beneath my feet prickled with a strange sensation, as if it were alive. The stones that had encircled me before were now just remnants of a past darkness. I felt an unseen gaze fix upon me, cold and unrelenting. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small and lost. No response came, just the rustle of leaves. Anxiety knotted in my stomach. Where was I? What had I stepped into? Suddenly a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned sharply, and there in the distance stood a figure. It was hard to make out through the thick mist that started to roll in, but the outline was unmistakable. A person staring straight at me. My heart raced again, a mixture of hope and fear. Was it her? Was it the girl who'd pushed me to safety? I called her name, but my voice shattered in the hollow air. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it began to move, gliding into the veil of fog. "Wait!" I shouted, running toward where I had seen them. The soft crunch of leaves beneath my feet felt oddly loud, echoing in the silence. Even in my panic, I wondered how the figure had vanished so quickly. Was I chasing a ghost? Just as I thought I was getting closer, the mist thickened, and I lost sight of them completely. I stopped, gasping for breath. The forest had transformed, shifting around me. I wasn't in control anymore. In the distance, a faint sound broke the silence, a chime, echoing like a distant bell. It was soft but distinct, beckoning me deeper into the fog. Against my better judgment, I felt pulled toward it. But as I took a step forward, I hesitated. What if this is a trap? I muttered to myself. What if I end up like her? I was gripped by the memory of her terrified face and the chaos that had unfolded. I could choose to turn back and find a way out of this nightmare, or I could follow the sound, hoping it led to answers, or worse. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to move forward. Each step felt like a step into the unknown. The chime grew louder, almost musical, echoing like a hypnotic call. Suddenly, everything went quiet. That's when I felt it. The shadows around me began to shift, moving as if alive, closing in. I wasn't alone anymore. Something else was there with me, hidden in the fog, watching. I turned to run back the way I came, but it was too late. The mist swallowed the path I had taken, and panic took hold. I was trapped, with whatever was lurking in the shadows closing in. I spun around, my heart pounding as I frantically searched for any sign of a way out. The shadows pressed closer, swirling with a life of their own. I felt the air thicken, an oppressive weight that crushed my chest. Panic surged, and my breaths came in quick, shallow bursts. Then a voice, whispering, floated through the thick fog. It was low and gravelly, almost unintelligible. I strained to hear, hoping it would guide me. Stay. Hidden. It breathed. My skin crawled. I didn't want to stay. I wanted to leave. Without thinking, I ran. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my feet slipping on the damp ground. The sound of the chime faded as I hurried, but the voice lingered in my mind, urging me to stop. I could almost feel it brushing against my skin, the weight of its presence following me in the gloom. Something rustled behind me. I twisted around, catching a glimpse of a shadow darting through the trees. It was fast, too fast. My instincts screamed at me to keep moving. I pushed myself harder, adrenaline numbing the pain building in my legs. Then I heard it. A laugh, cruel and mocking, echoing through the mist. It wasn't a person. It felt like an echo of something darker, something that thrived in this place. I bolted forward, my thoughts racing. Was this what had happened to the girl? Had she run like I was? In the distance I spotted a faint glow. It flickered like candlelight, warm and inviting. My hope flickered too. Maybe there was safety ahead. As I ran towards it, the laughter faded, but I could still feel eyes on me. They watched, waiting. I reached the light, bursting into a small clearing, but my hope quickly faded. It wasn't the comforting warmth I had hoped for. Instead, it had an ethereal glow, casting strange shadows that danced around me. In the center stood an intricately carved stone altar, covered in symbols I couldn't understand. The air hummed ominously, pulsing with energy. As I backed away from the altar, a chill ran up my spine. The shadows coalesced, forming shapes that flickered like flames, closing in again. "Leave the offering," the voice whispered, clearer now yet still indistinct, echoing in my ears. My heart raced. Offering. What did it want? "Who are you?" I shouted out, desperate. "What do you want from me?" Silence fell, pressing against me. The shadows shifted violently, and I felt a surge of cold. Fear washed over me, a primal terror that told me to move. But I was frozen, caught between the haunting glow and the dark shapes surrounding me. That's when I saw it. A figure stepped out of the fog, emerging from the shadows. It was her, the girl who had pushed me away from the danger. Her face was pale, eyes wide with terror. "Run!" she screamed. "Get out of here!" Before I could process her words, the shadows lunged towards me. Everything went dark. When the darkness lifted, I found myself somewhere else. The clearing was gone. Instead, I lay on cold, damp ground, surrounded by tall trees, their branches swaying with a quiet rustle. Confusion hit me first. I scrambled to my feet, heart racing, scanning my surroundings. The chill in the air was sharp, and I could feel droplets of moisture clinging to my skin. "Where am I?" I muttered, the sound breaking the silence. The fog had receded somewhat, but strands still weaved between the trees, twisting like fingers reaching out for me. Panic clawed at me. I had been running, chased by shadows, and now somehow I was here. But where was the girl? Before I could think too much, I heard a faint noise, a whisper that wrapped around me. "This way." I hesitated. The voice sounded like the one from before, but clearer, as if a thread of hope ran through it. I felt drawn to follow, despite my instinct screaming at me to run in the opposite direction. I ventured deeper into the woods, feet moving quietly on the damp earth. My mind raced with thoughts. What offering had the voice mentioned? Did it mean me? Why was that girl here? Had I left her behind? I followed the voice through the trees, heart thumping loudly in my chest. The deeper I walked, the more the whispers turned into fragmented words. Help, find, truth. There was urgency there, an undeniable need that resonated with my own fears. Suddenly I stumbled upon a narrow path that split from the main trail. It was overgrown with weeds, barely visible. I had to choose. As I hesitated, a sudden rustling from behind a bush caught my attention. I spun around, ready to confront whatever lurked behind me. A silhouette moved, taking form. My breath caught. It was her again. The girl from before, but now her eyes were filled with an unsettling blend of desperation and determination. "They're coming," she urged, glancing back over her shoulder into the gloom. "You can't wait here. They're watching." "Who's coming? What do you mean?" I felt the fear seep back in, stronger than before. It felt like the shadows were creeping all around, echoing her words. "There's a way to escape," she continued, urgency lacing her voice. "But you need to trust me." Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a low growl echoed in the forest, deep and fearsome. Her expression changed instantly, fear swallowing her previous bravado. "Now!" she shouted, grabbing my hand. "Follow me!" Without thinking, I ran beside her down the narrow path. The growl turned into a chorus of snarls, reverberating through the trees, igniting every alarm in my mind. We ducked under low branches and dodged roots as we sprinted through the underbrush. But then, as we charged headlong, the path suddenly twisted, and I stumbled, losing my grip on her hand. I fell hard to the ground, pain lancing through my wrists, and looked up just in time to see shadows merging into one massive figure, advancing on us. "Run!" she screamed at me. "Don't look back!" I scrambled to my feet, dread carving itself into my heart as the looming presence grew nearer. I knew this was it, my chance to find out the truth or be swallowed whole. The shadows stretched, twisting toward me, thundering past the girl. I hesitated, then dashed down the path, the air thick with terror. Just as I spotted a flicker of light in the distance, I turned back. The girl was gone. The shadows roared, and I felt them reaching toward me again. I had to keep moving. I ran, the flickering light ahead brightening with every step. It was the only thing keeping me grounded, the only sign of hope. My breath came in ragged gasps as I sprinted, each footfall echoing with the relentless snarls behind me. The growls swelled like a storm, threatening to pull me back into that darkness. The forest closed in around me. My hands brushed against the rough bark of the trees, and I could hear the dry leaves crunching like bones beneath my feet as I pushed forward. The light finally revealed itself as a small clearing, breaking the suffocating hold of the trees. I stepped into it, my eyes adjusting quickly. It was a small, round space, illuminated by soft silver light that seemed to emanate from an ancient tree in the center. The trunk was wide, gnarled, and covered with strange symbols that glowed faintly. I couldn't help but think that this tree had seen things I didn't want to know. The air felt different here, alive and buzzing with energy, but I had no time to ponder mysteries as the growls stopped abruptly behind me. I spun around, heart pounding as silence draped over the clearing. I expected the shadows to flood into view, but all I saw were the outlines of trees bending in the wind. My mind raced. Had I lost them? Were they just waiting for me to make a mistake? Help me. A voice, familiar yet distorted, crept through the air. I looked back toward the glowing tree, and a figure began to appear at its base. It was that girl again, her image wavering like a mirage. "You have to listen," she shouted, her urgency cutting through the oppressive silence. "They can't reach you here, but we have to act quickly." "Who are they?" I asked, feeling bewildered and overwhelmed. Memories of our last moments rushed back. The snarling shadows, her desperate plea. "Creatures of the darkness," she replied, her gaze pleading. "They feast on fear and confusion. We need the ancient power from this tree. It can shield us, but only if you're willing to believe." I stared at her, torn between fear and the madness of trusting a stranger in a nightmare. But the shadows had already taken so much from me. I couldn't let them win. "What do I have to do?" "Approach the tree," she said. "Touch it and speak your truth. The tree will know." I stepped forward, careful to keep my eyes on her. The closer I got, the more I felt an inexplicable pull, as if the tree itself were alive, breathing, waiting for my presence. I placed my hand on its bark, the symbols warm against my skin. "Please," I murmured, my heart racing. "I want to fight back. I want to be free." As I spoke, the tree pulsed beneath my palm, a warm energy surging through me. Then, suddenly, the ground beneath me began to shake. I stumbled back, eyes wide. "What's happening?" "They're coming!" she screamed, her urgency igniting everything in me. I turned back to the edge of the clearing. Shadows emerged, creeping over the ground like spilled ink, hungry and restless. And that's when I saw it. A figure rising among the shadows, towering and shapeless. I felt the panic swell inside me. Who was it? "Trust in the tree," the girl shouted over the cacophony as I grasped for answers, but I knew I had to act fast before the shadows swallowed me whole. I pressed my palm against the tree again, feeling the energy pulse like a heartbeat. "I trust you," I shouted to the ancient trunk, my voice shaking but resolute. "Help me." The moment the words left my mouth, the tree crackled to life. Leaves rustled and glowed with vibrant light, illuminating the clearing with a warm, golden hue. The shadows paused, momentarily stunned, as if the light pushed them back momentarily. I could see their twisted forms writhing at the edges of the clearing, like dark smoke seeping into the light. "Keep it up, Jake," the girl urged, her voice rising above the chaos. "You have to maintain the connection. They can't reach us under the light." With each breath I poured my fear, confusion, and newfound determination into the tree. Whatever it held deep within its roots was awakening, rising to meet the darkness bearing down on us. The shadows flickered and writhed, and the growls morphed into agonized screams as if the light burned them. The figure in the shadows twisted and shuddered, but it was unlike anything I had seen. A mass of dark tendrils struggling against the radiant power emerging from the tree. I felt something shift inside me, a surge of understanding. The feeling told me this was bigger than I had imagined. The tree wasn't merely a shelter. It was a barrier, a shield, a final line drawn between life and the encroaching darkness. With a burst of energy, I channeled everything I had into the tree's essence. Bright light erupted from the trunk, spilling like liquid gold, bathing the clearing. A loud crack echoed in the air, snapping me from my thoughts. The figure shrieked, dissolving back into the shadows, fear rippling through the dark shapes as they ebbed and retreated. The girl stood by my side, her form illuminated by the glow surrounding us. "You did it, Jake," she exclaimed, and I could almost feel her joy beneath the fear. "But we need to go. They'll regroup." Reluctantly, I stepped back, feeling the warmth of the tree fade as the luminous glow began to dim. My heart raced. "What about you?" I said, my voice breaking. "You helped me." "I'll be fine," she assured, her eyes sparkling a muted hope. "This is my moment too. But you, get back to the waking world. Find others like you and share what you learned. They need to know the truth." "What truth?" The shadows lingered longer than I'd hoped, still threatening at the edges, whispering my fears. "Find out what they still want," she said. Her voice fell to a whisper as the golden light began to flicker. "It's not over yet, but you'll know when the time is right." Before I could respond, that same wind I'd felt when stepping through the opening rushed back. I staggered, the world spinning around me. As shadows lunged one last time, everything faded to black. When I came to, I was lying on the floor of my childhood home, the early morning light streaming through the windows. Disoriented, I pushed myself up, gasping for air, feeling the echo of fear still thrumming in my veins. The air was still, devoid of the laughter, the whispering shadows. Had it all been a dream? I glanced around the empty living room, the doll I had found in the woods resting innocently on the coffee table. My heart sank as I picked it up, seeing its worn features and that solitary button eye. I still felt the remnants of warmth from the tree's light coursing through me, the energy still echoing in the corners of my mind. I knew the truth was out there, rooted deep within the woods. I had escaped the darkness, at least for now. But I couldn't shake the need to understand. The girl's warning played on a loop, and the laughter still lingered, haunting the edges of my consciousness. I looked out the window toward the forest, the towering trees casting long shadows over my mother's house. They were waiting, perhaps not for me, but for someone like me, someone who would seek the truth. As I walked to the porch, a hard resolve settled in my chest. I moved forward, uncertainty mingling with purpose. I didn't know everything that had happened, and some questions still gnawed at me. But deep down, I felt it. The story was far from over. I had survived, yes, but the shadow still lurked beyond the trees, poised to pounce when least expected. And with that lingering doubt, I turned away from the darkness, ready to embrace whatever awaited me in the town of Maplewood, and accept that answers might not come as easily as I hoped. I think about it sometimes, the girl, the laughter, the shadows, and what really lies behind the trees. I moved to a different city after that, hoping to leave all my fears behind. But every now and then I feel the pull back, not quite a call, but a reminder that some stories need telling, even if they never truly end.